This story is about a man, Chukwudumeme Onwamadike, popularly known as Evans, a criminal genius who turned kidnapping into a multi-million-dollar enterprise. Evans is a native of Nnewi in Anambra State. He wasn't born a monster. He was under the care of a trader father and a prayerful mother. But ambitions has a way of turning dreamers into dangerous criminals. In his young adult days, Evans' father sent him to learn the auto spare parts trade under a businessman in Nnewi. Evans served the man for 5 years, but the man refused to settle him and accused Evans of stealing from him. According to Evans, his father was so embarrassed that he threw him out into the streets. Evans then moved in with his mother, who raised some money for him, facilitating his travel to Lagos State. While in Lagos, Evans started selling diesel to luxury buses and truck drivers along Lagos-Badagry Expressway. He would usually spend the night at a bus garage, and that was where he joined a robbery gang. His first gang specialized in highway robberies of luxury buses traveling at night. Evans and his gang had informants around the motor parks, and they would provide him with first-hand information on the movements of traders coming in and out of Lagos State with huge amounts of money. He and his gang members would then rob these night travelers of their money and other possessions. Eventually, some of the gang members were arrested and Evans fled the country. Now, this would be one of the many times he would flee the country. He then returned a few years later and relocated back to the East. While in the East, Evans formed some criminal alliances with a new gang, a more dangerous one. His targets were the wealthy Onitsha and Anambra businessmen. Word of his precision and wealth drew attention from other gangs. Soon, he wasn't just a kidnapper. He became the man the other criminals turned to. Like a mentor for them. And soon, he slipped into a deadlier role and became the keeper of guns and the banker of bullets. He began supplying all types of weapons to other criminals in the East. So while others pulled the trigger, Evans restocked the arsenal, and this was how he gained the name Kingpin. His biggest client was a man called Egeromo from Nkanu in Enugu State. Omo and his gang were known for robbing banks across the country. Some sources link Evans to one of such incidents that happened in 2009 in Nsukka, where Evans and Omo's gang stormed the town in a daylight operation that lasted 4 hours. They raided multiple banks and attacked and burned the Nsukka police station. The DPO of the station was unfortunately unalive while attempting to respond to that incident. Eyewitnesses' accounts reported that the gang sprayed bundles of naira to cheering crowds and Okada riders as they fled. Like anime style. But the gang was intercepted by security forces, and Egeromo was unalived, while several other gang members were arrested. Evans, who had allegedly participated in that deadly operation, fled the country once again, supposedly to Ghana. Upon his return, he set up base in Lagos. He then reinvented himself as a spare parts dealer from South Africa, flashing wealth funded by ransom payments. By this time, he had found himself a new ally named Henry Hunchman, who was operating from Anambra State. And when the police trails on them became too hot to handle, they moved their operations to Edo State, where Evans then reconnected with an old friend called Ehis. Ehis introduced Evans to his gang. Together, they masterminded a string of calculated abductions, blending precision with brutality, and they always stayed one step ahead of the law. Their operations raked in millions in blood money. The fear they unleashed in Edo State grew so fierce that it caught the attention of the Inspector General, Mohammed Abubakar. Mohammed dispatched one of his most trusted officers, Patrick Ejadawe, from Lagos to Edo State. Patrick wasn't just sent to investigate, he was sent to hunt. He then launched a relentless operation to dismantle the syndicate from within. And piece by piece, the empire Evans built began to crumble. But it wasn't just Patrick's strategy that cracked the gang. It was betrayal. Some of the gang members from within the syndicate, either driven by fear or greed, began trading secrets for survival. The fallout was bloody. By the time the smoke cleared, Evans, Hunchman, and another associate named Sudo had fled, vanishing across borders into Ghana. So Evans had slipped away again. But now, the hunt had officially begun, and his name was etched on Nigeria's most wanted list. Patrick Ejadawe was later redeployed under a new IG of police, and this eased the police pressure in Edo State. And then, like wolves sniffing the winds, Evans and his men returned to Nigeria, slipping quietly back into Lagos. They quickly got back to work, building their new hunting ground close to their targets, which was the wealthy Igbo traders in Festac Town, Amuodofi, and Ajao Estate, who had little to no security details. From within fortified compounds, they carried out their abductions, and the victims were held in makeshift prison houses. The victims were blindfolded, chained, and fed only once a day. Huge ransoms were demanded in foreign currency. Some victims were held for months while they paid their ransom in installments. In some operations, Evans easily raked in as much as $1 million per victim. In 2013, Evans and his gang attempted to kidnap Chief Vincent Obianudo, the wealthy owner of the Young Shall Grow Motors. The plan was bold, the target was high profile. But something went wrong. As the bullets flew, two of Evans' men were gunned down in a violent shootout with the police. And Chief Obianudo's driver, as well as a police officer, were unalived in that incident. Chief Obianudo was badly wounded, but he survived after undergoing surgery. It was one of the few operations that didn't end in a ransom payout. The city was under siege, and no one knew when or where Evans would strike next. The last known operation was in February of 2017, when Donatus Duru, a wealthy pharmaceutical importer, was kidnapped, and the ransom was set at $300 million. Evans had collected $150 million when Donatus escaped from the hideout, leading to a major breakthrough for the police. Later that year, the IG, with the help of Interpol, launched a sting operation that was led by the now infamous Abba Kyari. They stormed Evans' mansion in Magodo, and the man who was the distributor of arms was finally arrested without a single shot fired. The police discovered a trove of his assets, including 2 mansions in Lagos and expensive properties in Ghana. In a chilling confession broadcast on TV, Evans finally spoke. He confessed that his own mother knew he was into kidnappings, but she never supported it. He said he couldn't figure out how much he had collected from his victims, but that he chose to collect ransom in dollars to be different from the other kidnappers. On February 25th, 2022, the Lagos State High Court found Evans and 2 others guilty of kidnapping and conspiracy, and Evans was sentenced to life imprisonment. While some sources say he was convicted and sentenced to life in prison, others say the case was adjourned, with no verdict or sentence. For years, Evans stayed one step ahead, smart, slippery, and silent. But today, he sits behind bars. No more millions, no more mansions, and his fate remains tied in endless court proceedings.